Events begin in the world where the hero once lived, a world completely destroyed by the lightning that filled the sky. Destruction and chaos spread, and monsters rushed across the land, who fought very fiercely and violently. People had to continuously fight monsters just to survive. And our hero, too, has spent his life fighting fierce wars without respite. Despite his wounds and fatigue, the hero stood firm, looking hopefully and forcefully into the horizon with an unwavering will. The hero continued to confront the monsters day after day without the slightest truce. The battles lasted month after month, but the hero fought without rest. A whole year has passed, during which he has grown stronger and more determined in the face of adversity. Then a whole 10 years passed, but to him they passed like moments as he fought fiercely against the monsters. With the power of his single sword, he could defeat any monster without fear. But this confidence was shattered when a terrifying beast appeared, whose power surpassed all previous monsters. The kid could defeat any monsters without fear, but this beast defeated the hero with ease. The monster looked contemptuously at the hero and told him to surrender, for the world he was fighting for had already fallen. In the moment of defeat, the hero thought that someone else was behind it all, who had let evil sneak into this world. The creature interrupted the guy, stating that the hero's strength and potential was wasted and demanded to become his sword and tool. The hero grinned wryly and rejected the offer with firm resolve. Despite his wounds, the hero rushed forward with a desperate cry, and leaping high, he raised his sword and prepared to strike the monster. But at the last moment, he slipped past the creature's shoulder, which, as it turns out, also attacked him with its giant fist. The guy's action angered the monster, and it turned on him, and saw the young man preparing a new blow in the air. The monster was determined to stop him, by all means. The guy was terrified of it, and the behemoth struck him with a powerful claw strike, but the hero luckily managed to barely dodge such a deadly attack, despite being severely wounded. At this moment, the monster said that no matter how hard a hero tried, he would always remain weak in front of such a mighty force. Immediately, the hero received a sharp blow that dealt him a lot of damage. But bye-bye. He was thrown back with such force, but luckily he landed on his feet. Despite his fall and immobility, he chose to continue the battle and lunge forward. The monster stood proudly and not afraid of the kid at all, clearly celebrating the victory. The beast displayed its might and majesty before the defeated hero, asserting its superiority. He delivered a devastating blow, showing his immense power, and sending the hero hurtling to the ground. The hero collapsed completely, dropping to his knees, but managed to stay alive. Meanwhile, the monster stood in all its might, looking at the hero, no longer able to resist. The hero noticed a mysterious pendant shimmering in the light and hanging from the chest of a huge beast. He stared at the pendant, clenching his fists, grabbed his cool sword and swung his arm backward as the monster prepared to strike. And with tremendous force, the hero sent that sword forward, launching it very fast and high forward, straight towards the monster. At this moment, monster responded with an extremely powerful counterattack. Hitting a guy right on the head is a fatal blow to the average person. But suddenly the huge weapon didn't turn the guy's head to mush. It stopped instead. At that moment, the monster noticed a pendant on his chest that began to crack from the impact of the sword. The monster went into a frenzy. He shrieked with a cry of madness and called the hero a bastard. The hero rose with great difficulty. He was full of wounds. And just as the pendant completely disintegrated, the monster screamed in desperation, trying to stop what was happening. But his body abruptly shattered into pieces, leaving behind a blinding light that filled everything around him. Afterward, the hero lay on the ground, fatally depleted, surrounded by destruction and ruin. The hero's eyes slowly closed. He looked up at the sky and fainted from the weight of his wounds. He marveled at the beauty and said it was a breathtaking and magnificent sight looking at the meteorite. As the flames surrounded him more and more, suddenly the scene shifts to a man walking with a confident gait on the ground. This man turns out to be a young man, wearing simple clothes and walking calmly through a modern city. A large red signal appears to indicate the location of the gate. They had a sign asking citizens not to pass without the right rank and demanding a document. The young man continues walking, ignoring directions while loudspeakers broadcast the rules of attendance. It reaches the Yongsan district in Seoul and stops in front of a tall building. Suddenly, he jumps up with incredible speed and easily overcomes the gate, leaving a cloud of dust in its wake. As soon as he crossed the barrier, a loud alarm sounded, warning of trespassing. The loudspeakers again give out a clear alert. An unregistered person has forcibly entered through the gate. The young man walks into the spacious wooded area outside the gate and looks around quietly. He stands in the middle of the trees and then begins to move deeper into the location. Someone in the distance calls out to him, and the boy cautiously turns his head in the direction of the voice. A group of uniformed men approach him and ask him if he is lost. The leader of the group says that he doesn't know what happened, but invites the young man to come along with them next. The young man stares at them silently, nonchalantly ignoring his words. The red-haired girl notices his clothes and is surprised to hear him say that he looks like an ordinary man, not a hero. Another participant mockingly notes the simplicity of his attire, suggesting that he may be a simple porter. The third member of the group wonders aloud about the contents of his usual backpack. They chuckle at the end, saying that he's probably just a loader who was abandoned by the heroes. Still, there are doubts. The guy said to the group that he understands everything, but he just came for a walk and that's it. One of the band members mockingly replies that the young man in the white t-shirt has definitely been ditched. The leader of the group enters the conversation with a serious tone and tells the young man that he has met many like this and understands his thoughts as he enters the gate. He advises not to take risks and start with low-level gates, as what is shown in the news and online is different. It's more serious. However, the young man reacts coldly to the advice, saying that he appreciates their good intentions, but feels no gratitude for their concern. The group was shocked, stunned by his rude and provocative response. One of the participants becomes enraged and wants to give the young man a thrashing, while the others try to calm him down. At the end, the leader reassures the group, believing that such a person will only learn through harsh experience. The guy recalls after a while the man's words about the gate being a danger, and that things are much tougher in reality. Suddenly, a huge monster with an intimidating face appears right behind him and prepares to attack. The monster emits a terrifying roar and prepares to attack, and the young man stands still, not even turning around to face the impending blow. He closed his eyes, and as soon as the monster hit him, the kid dodged purely on instinct. At that moment, he opened his burning eyes and said that he had been waiting for this moment for 10 years. The monster struck him again with his giant axe, but was surprised and shocked. Something had gone wrong. And that's when the guy strikes with a lightning-fast and powerful punch, easily defeated the monster with his spear hand, leaving a huge hole in its body. The beast stood like that for a couple seconds, from the surprise of the fatal blow, and a moment later falls dead to the ground, blood spilling all around. The slain monster makes the guy realize that really, nothing has changed and there is no difference. He stands majestically amidst the smoke and remains of the battle that ended so swiftly. The guy reached his hand forward and picks up the weapon that had fallen from the monster's clutches and gazes at it with interest and concentration. He remains silent, scrutinizing the weapon, contemplating what he should do next, then turns to the corpse of the monster, with mysterious glowing patterns emerging from the wound on it. Then suddenly there was a splash of apple jam. The young man picked at the monster's neck in a confident and measured manner. Inside, he finds a magical stone and takes it, looking at it thoughtfully. The stone was of low level. He recalls that he wouldn't have paid attention to such a humble item before, but now he appreciates it in a different way. After a while, he cleaned the stone and put it in his backpack. Suddenly, he senses something suspicious and realizes there is a monster nearby. His attention is focused, preparing for the upcoming clash. He hears the sound of heavy footsteps rapidly approaching him. Suddenly, a new group of large, strong monsters appeared in front of him, ready for a furious attack. They were already standing right behind him. The young man moves with incredible speed, skillfully dodging a punch. Then he squeezes red magic crystal and forcefully throws it at one monster's head, shocking his partner. The monster immediately falls from the stone. The head was completely destroyed. He was now standing in front of a host of other monsters and preparing for their attack. The guy stood firm in the situation, while the group he had met earlier was leaving, unaware of what had happened behind them. The girl in the group turned around, remembering the young man who had treated her rudely, and wondered if he was okay. She expressed concern, wondering if he would actually die, which surprised her companion who did not share her concern. The group leader intervened, pointing out that if it was an intruder, would have been chased by control center agents long ago. Indeed, the control center agents were running swiftly through the forest, as Namsan Gate is a C-ranked place. Things are serious here. The leader reassured the team, saying that the young man wouldn't die if he didn't fight the monsters recklessly, and the companions agreed with him. At this point, one of them mockingly remarked that the arrogant guy must be shivering with fear, waiting to be rescued by the agents. But indeed, Guy showed remarkable courage in delivering decisive blows with his fists. He displayed incredible speed and skill, dodging monster axe attacks. The monsters were stunned by the guy's speed and strength. At this time, he powerfully leaped into the air above the monster's head and delivered a sudden aerial attack to one of the monsters, and then with a crushing blow killed him instantly, leaving him a helpless corpse. Blood was spreading on the ground next to the bodies of the defeated monsters. With apparent confidence, the lad walked along with his new sword, and having struck the last blow, I informed myself that I had received 3 more magic stones. Then after a while, he packed and put on his backpack again, ready to move on. It turned out the loot wasn't all that impressive. He had collected 12 low-grade stones and 16 medium-grade stones. A control center agent suddenly approached him from afar, radioing that they had found the guy. The young man turned to him calmly, wondering what the man wanted. He was approached by several uniformed agents and informed that they were from the control center, demanding to show the hero's documents or they would take him to the center. The young man mockingly and dismissively asked if they were really from the gate control center. One of the agents firmly demanded immediate obedience to their order. At that point, the guy was clearly annoyed at the insistence. Noting wryly that they were seriously annoyed, the agents began to tense at his reaction. Suddenly, they yelled to each other that it was time to call it a day. Cuff the kid. They threatened him with the use of force if he refused to follow instructions. Indeed, one of the agents grabbed his arm, trying to hold him down and cuff him, and the other warned that any injuries from resistance would be his own responsibility, and it would be better if he went quietly to the center. Guy continued his confrontation with the control center agents, easily parrying an attempt by one of them to restrain him. The agent was shocked at the sudden strength of an ordinary guy in a white t-shirt. He glared at them coldly and ordered them not to interfere with him and to retreat immediately. The rest of the agents rushed to intervene, drawing their weapons to forcefully suppress it. They activated special batons, activating a rank 4 magic seal to restrict his movement. The boy noticed the power of the magic and thought it could handle the orcs, but not enough to stop him. He promptly disarmed one of the agents and turned to the remaining agents in a serious tone, warning them that this was their last chance, and if they don't want to get hurt, they'd better retreat immediately. The agents tried to attack again, and the guy didn't move from his seat, but with incredible speed and stopped their blows. Then one of them struck the young man again, but he dodged easily, then swung his foot in with force and forcefully kicked the attacker in the lower back, this agent already clearly immobilized. The guy continued his onslaught with overwhelming power, using precision fighting techniques, and another agent stood behind him. He knocked one of him to the ground with one strong blow, denying him the ability to continue the fight. He then quickly turned to the last remaining agent, preparing to end the confrontation. The remaining agent felt a tremendous amount of tension from the young fighter's unprecedented strength. He threw a sharp glare at him, clearly showing that he was capable of defeating them all without much difficulty, and then suddenly disappeared from the agent's sight with astonishing speed, leaving the agent confused and deeply troubled. The guy appeared suddenly and delivered a powerful straight punch, knocking him down with a body blow. But the agent held on to his knees. The young assassin's fist was smoking. The agent found himself unable to rise, groaning in pain. He didn't realize what was happening. The guy turned to him again and asked the agent why the control center was going after unregistered heroes, to which the agent explained that registered heroes don't run into problems unless they break the rules inside the gate. Then June's boyfriend asked sharply about the rifts, causing the agent fear and confusion. Rifts are defined as passageways to other worlds where strange monsters appear and spread across the globe. And the resources from these monsters are used as a new form of energy. Areas that are completely controlled by the government and do not allow monsters to escape are classified as gates, and areas as yet unknown and unstabilized are called faults. The guy said in anger that agents would continue to hunt him in every gateway, accusing them of targeting him with made-up reasons. The agent, now extremely frightened, confirmed the veracity of these words, adding that whenever people enter without registration, they are sent a signal to chase them. The agent tried to explain that the rifts were not as accessible as the gate, and that the Hero Association would not be idle. The boy, on the other hand, answered indifferently, showing no concern at his threats. But he managed to grab the agent's face. The agent became angry, realizing that he should have reported the fugitive to headquarters immediately. calling him insane and dangerous. But before he could do anything about it, the guy's powerful punch sent him flying and slammed him into the ground with force, then looked at the defeated agent with contempt, calling him worthless. When the agent, struggling to rise, began to jump up, he shouted in rage that he would kill him next time, but the guy didn't even turn around. At that moment, the scene suddenly changed strangely, and the image of the monster's broken amulet popped into my mind. Also the monster's distorted voice before he died. He remembered how he had gradually lost consciousness, and that nasty howl of the monster echoed in his ears. He was being pulled into something unknown, and he began to wonder if it was death approaching. Then he remembered seeing the clear features of his former self. Before he entered this body, eyes calm and staring right at us. He hung in the air, surrounded by a strange light, as if he was stuck between heaven and earth. Then that figure calmly asked the name of the guy in front of him, the very same killer. Seo Dejun introduced himself, saying that he could feel himself gradually dying. He added quietly that if his request was granted, he would quietly disappear without causing trouble. But the other man firmly rejected the request. Seo Dejun was surprised by this statement and didn't know how to respond at first. Another explained that he no longer had any attachment to life, that after 10 years of fighting, he had been betrayed by a comrade he trusted. His country was completely destroyed, and he lost friends and family. He spoke with deep sadness about a life that seemed meaningless, despite his best efforts. He then turned directly to Seo Dejun, asking if the latter felt the same way. Seo Dejun expressed his hope that those who are left of his family, his grandmother and Yun Young, will never go through what he himself went through. The friend sighed and asked Seo Dejun with interest what he really wanted. The guy got excited and started answering the question. He put his hand on his chest and made it clear that his true desire was that, and the scene was interrupted. The scene then shifted again to show the Gasan Digital Complex in Gumshin District, Seoul, now known as the Heroic Complex, where trading gateway products financially far outstrips IT companies. Seo Dejun walked quietly down the street amidst the hustle and bustle of people and the noise of everyday life. He stopped in front of one of the stores, contemplating whether this would be the right place to live. In a store specializing in buying stones, a young tattooed salesman greeted Seo Dejun. Seo Dejun explained to the seller that he wanted to sell the magic stones he had collected. He dumped the contents of the bag onto the table, revealing a set of magical stones still covered in traces of blood. The vendor was surprised and clearly uncomfortable with the sight of blood on the stones, quietly grumbling about how people should clean the stones before bringing them in. Nevertheless, he calmly informed Seo Dejun that he had quite a lot of stones and it would take some time to evaluate them. The salesman offered Seo a cup of coffee while waiting, to which Guy dryly replied that any would do. The young man sat down and sipped his coffee quietly, while the salesman sorted through the stones enthusiastically. Finished, the seller detailed the contents: 12 low-grade stones, 16 medium-grade, and 5 slightly higher grade. He then announced that the store's commission was 40%, bringing Seo Dejun's total payment to about 6 million won. Seo Dejun interrupted him in anger, objecting to the high commission and pointing out that he was the one who had done all the work. The store, on the other hand, had done nothing. The salesman smiled smugly and explained that other stores usually charge 45%, and this was actually a better deal. He then told Seo Dejun that if he didn't want to sell, he could take the stones and leave, challenging that he wouldn't find a better offer anywhere else. Seo Dejun replied coldly and decided not to finalize the deal, saying that he was going to sell the stones elsewhere. But as he turned to leave, the salesman abruptly grabbed his arm, demanding payment for sorting, coffee, blood cleaning, and towel, totaling 360,000 won. Seo Dejun firmly stated that he didn't have the money to pay that amount and challenged the seller to take it by force if he could. The vendor smiled wickedly and warned Seo that he had support for C-rank heroes, calling him annoying. Suddenly, a group of large, menacing-looking men entered the store along with a clerk. The gray-haired man leading them asked why he had been summoned and if there was a problem being created here. Seo Dejun exchanged a cold, sharp gaze with the man, creating a tense atmosphere. "I think something's about to happen." The salesman began to feel fear and anxiety because of how rapidly things were spiraling out of control. In an instant, Seo Dejun landed a swift and unexpected blow on the big man, bringing him down with one powerful fist. The man collapsed to the floor, unable to move or fight back. Seo calmly looked around at the others, who were also easily defeated by his power. He slowly approached the startled salesman and coldly stated that the commission would now only be 1%. Dujun bestowed an icy, quiet smile on him and told him to conduct his business more carefully and respectfully from now on. In parting, he promised that he would definitely come back later. The scene shifts to Seo Dujun's family home, where he threw a huge amount of money on the table, right in front of his grandmother and sister, causing them to gasp in shock. The grandmother asked in amazement where such money had come from, clearly not realizing what her grandson had gotten himself into. The guy was sitting on the floor and tried to justify himself by explaining that he had lent his friend the money and the latter had invested it in a very successful project. Grandma looked at him suspiciously, sensing some sort of catch. The story didn't sound plausible. She bluntly asked if he really had such a friend. Seo Dujun tried to dispel her doubts by saying that it was a comrade from his past, from the place where he grew up. The grandmother seemed to accept the explanation, holding on to the money, but her concern didn't go away. Younger sister Anyung asked excitedly if that meant they were rich now. The young man smiled warmly and replied calmly, assuring that they were indeed rich from now on. My grandmother and sister were delighted with the news and started dancing and cheering around the house, glowing with happiness. Guy watched their joy, but in the back of his mind he felt anxious. He recalled the request of another So Dujung that his family live in complete safety. The one asked for their eternal protection, but disappeared before he could hear the answer. Then he remembered the moment when he first woke up and realized that he became Seo Dujun after being someone else in a broken world. The guy thought that the safest house in Korea now costs about 110 billion won. Yes, it will be difficult to reach the goal. He confidently told himself that once he regained his former strength, this sum would seem insignificant. Seo Dujun remembered that everything in this world, gates, rifts, monsters, was weaker than what he had encountered in the ruined past. The terrifying monsters he had fought before came to mind, and he pointed out that his strength is now not even 10% of what it used to be. At that moment, his thoughts were interrupted by a loud, sharp knock on the door, followed by a shout calling out to Dujun. He calmly told his grandmother to stay inside with his sister and decided to go out to the uninvited guests. Going outside in slippers, he saw two big men at the threshold, making it immediately clear that they had come with aggression. They demanded that Seo Dujun return the money immediately, that he allegedly borrowed recently. The amount owed is 45 million won. The guy immediately realized it was the debt collectors from whom the real Seo Dujun borrowed money to pay for his grandmother's treatment, and the debt had managed to grow. The men insisted with vigor that he hand over all the recent gate proceeds as agreed upon in the contract. When they tried to force him to pay, Seo Dujun struck one of them with monstrous power with astonishing speed. The guy's face turned to mush immediately. The other was stunned at such speed and power, clearly shaken by the sudden attack that almost killed his partner. Seo Dujun approached the second one with a threat, claiming that he had already paid over 9 million and now he was entitled to a refund. The man recoiled in horror, dumbfounded, asking if he was really the same Seo Dujun they knew. Instead of answering, he gave one last stern warning and coldly told them to tell their boss that he would be checking in on himself soon. The scene has changed. In a busy mall full of people, going from store to store, a brightly colored display case of plush toys appears on the shelves. The girl Eun looks at the toys with delight, wondering if she can get a new doll. Seo Dujun smiles softly at his little sister, saying that he's already bought her new clothes, and now she can pick out whatever she wants. He begins to reflect on his feelings, realizing that the memories of the original Dujun are affecting his previous coldness and apathy, and keeps watching Anyan and thinks that maybe the feeling is just sympathy. Seo Dujun, a girl, gazes at the toys with delight, wondering if she can really buy a new doll. However, he recognizes the original Seo Dujun was really kind to his half-sister Onyung, and he will protect her. Onyung finally picks out a small toy and asks if he can take it. When she picks up the doll to show him, Seo Dujun instead picks up a big, beautiful plush toy for her. He reminds her again to speak up. You can take whatever you want without hesitation. Onyung smiles widely, filled with gratitude for her brother. After shopping, they sit together at a restaurant. In front of them is a plethora of delicious dishes. While eating, Seo Dujun suddenly hears a girl's voice behind him, wondering if it's Seo Dujun. He turns and sees a well-dressed girl, accompanied by a group of tall bodyguards. The girl asks why he's dressed like that. The girl asks him why he's dressed like that, and then disdainfully asks who the girl with him is. Seo Dujun throws a barbed glare at her, and she continues to sneer, asking if On-young is as much of a burden as her mother once was. The atmosphere grows more and more heated from her words, and Seo Do-jun and his sister sit in silence, while the security girl approaches their table. On-young is at a loss to quietly whisper who this strange girl is that is interfering with them, while Seo Do-jun remains silent, visibly enraged. The girl smirks and doesn't stop teasing and taunting them. On-young looks at her innocently, not understanding the reason for the sudden hostility, and then the girl asks her name, and On-young just says Lee Eun-young. The girl begins to mock On-young and her family, especially ridiculing her simple clothes, comparing her to her mother, and calling them both pathetic. She turns to Seo Do-jun and provocatively asks if she's right in what she's saying, but he remains silent and furious, refusing to answer. The girl is visibly annoyed at his ignoring and lack of response to her barbs. Then she turns to On-young again and calls her an annoying little tomboy in a threatening manner. The arrogant girl continues to provoke Seo Do-jun by sarcastically asking On-young if she knows the meaning of the word slut. Seo Do-jun looks at her with icy coldness and then abruptly cuts her off by calling her ugly like an orc. The girl finds herself completely shocked at such an unexpected answer, staring at him with her piggy eyes. He continues to stare at her with a fierce, angry look. Guy recalls the difficult past of the real Seo Do-jun, who was born into extreme poverty. After his mother died when he was 7, he had to move in with his biological father. But his life didn't improve. For more than a decade, he suffered from loneliness due to not being needed by his father and his new family. Eventually, he was kicked out the door again and went to live with his maternal grandmother and half-sister On-young, whom he had never met before. Seo Do-jun feels deep sadness and wonders how the original bore all this injustice and cruelty. After all, he was still very kind and always smiled and gave love to the world. Then he firmly decides that things will be different from now on. Seo Do-jun turns to the arrogant girl and tells her that he's lived with her for 12 years, but she still disgusts him. He calls her hopeless. He is sickened by her looks, disgusting character, and the stupid mind. He continues harshly, stating that she is always jealous of girls prettier and kinder than her, and that she has an inferiority complex. The guards are in shock. He adds that she has never been better than On-young, who genuinely cares about her brother's life. The girl looks at him in anger, her face clearly reflecting the shock of his scathing insult. She shouts furiously. Suddenly, everyone hears a calm female voice. "June, it's been so long since we've seen each other." They are approached by a sophisticated, elegant woman, whose confidence, strength, and beauty are immediately apparent. The girl is dumbfounded on seeing her and exclaiming, "Mama," rushes to her, tearfully complaining about Seo Do-jun's words. But the mother firmly cuts him off, telling him to shut up and stop such inappropriate behavior. Ignoring her daughter's actions, the mother addresses Seo Do-jun in a soft tone, asking if he's okay. As Seo leaves, his mother rebukes him in a sympathetic voice, saying that although he is busy, he should visit home from time to time. Seo Do-jun's anger at the hypocrisy of the one who hurt him for 12 years flares up inside. His mother continues to be provocative, claiming that his father feels strongly about him. Seo Do-jun turns to her with a fierce look and bluntly tells her that she shouldn't be interested in him or interfere in his life. He then abruptly orders her to disappear from his sight immediately. The woman feels deeply offended and humiliated in front of everyone because of Seo Do-jun's strong and powerful response. She walks away, seized with anger and embarrassment, and her daughter is left behind in shock at such a harsh and humiliating scene. As the woman walked away, she wondered if the person in front of her was really the same Seo Do-jun, who could even be beaten up. Her daughter hurried after her, calling out and asking her to wait. Meanwhile, Seo Do-jun quietly turned to Sister On-young and said it was time to leave, and she immediately agreed. Seo mentally declared with certainty that the guy who once kept quiet and took offense was completely gone. And they should all remember that. The scene has changed. The car with the woman, her daughter, and security guards raced away from the scene. In the car, the girl stormed off in anger, demanding an explanation as to why they had left so suddenly and insisting that Seo Do-jun be punished for his act. She continued to complain loudly to her mother, asking if she knew what he had said to her. But her mother ignored her daughter and turned to Lee's head of security. The mother then sharply asked the bodyguard why Seo Do-jun was still alive. Lee's bodyguard explained in a trembling voice that according to the report, Kang Shul had left him at the rift. The mother wailed in a rage that Seo Do-jun was supposed to be dead, and how did he even survive? Pig was shocked by what he heard and began to question his mother about what she meant by saying that Seo Do-jun should have died. But the mother didn't answer and remained silent, ignoring her daughter's question. The girl was left in a stupor and shouted to her mother in disbelief, "Did they really try to kill Seo Do-jun?" Then, completely dumbfounded, she continued, her voice trembling with anger and jealousy. Just as suddenly, her mother asked her if her piggy still had feelings for Seo Do-jun. But she shouted furiously that she had no feelings for him at all, warning him not to let anyone find out. The mother exploded with rage, grabbed her daughter's face. She threateningly told her daughter not to interfere any further, emphasizing that the matter was her own and she could handle it without help. The daughter was frightened and left speechless. Inside, the mother continued to boil with rage, cursing herself for daring Seo Do-jun to stand up to her, even though he was just a degenerate. Now she was determined to make him disappear at any cost. The story goes back 10 years to when the rifts first appeared. These zones caused dangerous monsters to appear that attacked and ruthlessly destroyed humans. The world has been plunged into extreme chaos by these events. However, the situation gradually began to stabilize, with the emergence of heroes capable of fighting back against the monsters. From the monsters, people received magic stones, mana stones, which became a new source of energy in the world. States then began to turn these dangerous rifts into organized gateways. Now the whole world revolves around gates and heroes, and the whole industry is centered around those gates. And watching all of this, Seo Do-jun realized that the only way to make money in this world was to become a hero. Guy arrives in the capital city of Yeongdongpo by HCS. He strolled slowly along the pedestrian zone toward one building, which just happened to have this company's HCS logos on it. In this place, which looks like an old building, stands a man smoking a cigarette and watching expectantly. Seo Do-jun enters the building, surprising the smoking man and his companions with the appearance of a stranger. The man sternly asks who he is, and then angrily adds, "Did he really dare to come here after already messing with his people?" Seo Do-jun responds by coldly explaining that he deserves significant compensation for the material and moral damages he has suffered. The man with glasses stares intently at Seo Do-jun, thinking to himself that Do-jun's personality had changed a lot since entering the gate. Bandit also concludes that Seo must have awakened his power inside the gate. He leans over to Seo Do-jun, threatening him and saying that he knows well what happens to those who become arrogant after waking up in the gate. Suddenly, other men approach and surround Seo Do-jun, clearly threatening him. The main man stands up and approaches Seo Do-jun aggressively. The man explains that he's seen a lot of people become D-rank heroes, and they were all arrogant but ended up being trash. He also claims to have plenty of Drang heroes to teach the upstarts a lesson or two. Seo remains silent, ignoring all the threats he hears. Then angrily orders the bandit to sit down. He looks at him with crazy eyes and says he hasn't finished talking yet. The guard gets furious at Seo Do-jun's manner of answering and suddenly tries to attack him. But Seo quickly removes the glasses from his face and then knocks the man to the ground with a powerful blow to the head, and he goes down instantly. After that, Seo Do-jun easily continues to attack the other men surrounding him with crushing blows. During the fight, Guy tells them he knows full well their business is not just about loans. He then adds, while still fighting, that he is also aware of their forged documents. Seo explains that he needs an official hero card to make money. Seo Do-jun continues the fight nonstop, deftly dodging the men's attacks. Then he stands up among the defeated men lying on the ground and coldly demands that the man in charge provide him with a genuine hero's map, free of errors and flaws. He adds in a firm tone that she should be ready for tomorrow. All the men are gripped by fear, and they think to themselves that Seo Do-jun might not just be a Drang hero, but possibly a rang or higher. The frightened man quickly agrees to Seo's request, but the guy stops him again, saying he needs to find out something else. Then Seo Do-jun asks sharply and threateningly if Hong Hee-ju was the one who gave the order to kill him. The man clearly recalls Hong Hee-ju's features when she gave him that order, but remains silent. The man's silence makes Seo Do-jun even angrier and squeezes his shoulder, demanding an answer. The man cries out in pain and horror, quickly recognizing that Hong Hee-ju had indeed given him that order. He explains that Hong Hee-ju was hoping that Seo Do-jun would go into such deep bondage that he'd have to kill himself. Then the man adds, still screaming in horror, that that's exactly what Hong Hee-ju told him. Seo Do-jun remains calm after this confession, and the man begs to be let go. Seo Do-jun mockingly comments on his words about suicide, saying that it explains why he was locked inside the gate. The man immediately tries to defend himself, insisting that he knew nothing about the gate situation. He continues to make excuses, saying that if Seo Dojun had died, he wouldn't have gotten the money. So why would he have sent him there? Seo listens to the man's words with interest and quietly ponders them. Then Seo suddenly remembers Kang Cheol-woo's name and says it out loud. He explains to the man that Kang Cheol-woo was the one who drove him into the gate and asks him to bring all the information about him tomorrow. The guy calmly walks away, leaving the men in a state of extreme fear and panic. As he walks, as Seo remembers all his desires, he decides to make sure his grandmother and sister An Young are perfectly safe, just as he promised. Seo Dojin decides and realizes that he has to work hard to achieve this goal, but he can handle it all. Gets a B-rank hero identification card after a while. Seo Dojun puts the card to the electronic device to verify its authenticity. The device checks his card and confirms that the registration has been passed, but the hero is clearly a newcomer. Dojung's level is below the recommended level for entry, but Seo Dojun grumbles with annoyance that the man should have given him a higher rank, such as A rank. The guy nails it and walks confidently through the entrance, while the device continues to issue its warning. He enters the Bamsum Gate, classified as B rank, but they have a D rank scale, and it is not recommended to go through them alone. But due to the tunnel structure of the gates, they only allow single entry, which is difficult for heroes with ranks lower than A. Seo Dojin continues to advance inside the gate, ignoring all the warnings appearing in front of him. He says he will have to face hundreds of monsters alone in a dark and narrow tunnel, and that's when he starts encountering monsters. But he doesn't look scared at all. Rather, he seems to be enjoying the fight. Seo Dojung's fight begins with a giant and ferocious snake-like monster. Guy shows outstanding skill in dodging the snake's repeated and rapid attacks. The snake continues to attack, releasing venomous poison from its fangs in an attempt to wound him. Seo Dojin realizes that the black-fanged serpent in front of him is an extremely poisonous creature, capable of killing with even a small dose. He jumps sharply forward at high speed, strongly pushing off the ground, and then successfully strikes the monster with a powerful and accurate punch. The guy moves at high speed, carefully avoiding the deadly poison flying around. He manages to avoid being poisoned and is relieved by that success. But something still got in. He looks at the glove that the poison got on, but it protected him, and thinks to himself that it cost 300,000 won. In a moment of concentration, Seo Dojun senses the monster's sudden movement and prepares to meet it again. The monster attacks with tremendous force, opening its huge maw, and in one stroke swallows the protagonist whole, quickly closing its jaws. The confrontation results in the monster's jaws bursting open, and the poison spills out into the neighborhood. Seo Dojun stands to his full height, watching the monster fall defeated before him. He approaches to find magic stones in the monster's body, but finds nothing. Seo confirms that in his previous experience, the probability of finding a magic stone in a black-fanged snake is less than 3%. The guy realizes he's going to have to kill hundreds of monsters to collect enough stones, and he's ready. He continues to advance through the gate and emerges into an area strewn with bones and monster corpses. A huge skull appears in front of him, and Seo wonders if the boss monster did it. Seo Dojin raises his head to look at his boss, and in front of him appears Boss Monster, a colossal serpent with glowing eyes. Seo Dojun is relieved that the boss monster has shown up, saying he didn't know the way to it, so this comes in handy, and starts attacking. However, he is surprised to find that his blows do not reach the monster's body. GG wonders why his attacks aren't doing any tangible damage to the monster. With a continued attempt, quickly dodging the boss monster's attacks, Buddy grabs him and throws him. Seo was thrown very hard and hit the wall with a thud, but he rose quickly and met the huge maw of the boss's serpent in front of him. She quickly struck with her stone maw, but GH quickly moved out of the line of attack. Barely able to stand on my own 2 feet, he sharply pushed forward with renewed vigor, ready to kill. And he succeeded. He caught up to the snake and struck its skin, literally crushing every living thing in front of him. But what he saw surprised him. Dojin realized that this monster's skin was extremely tough and completely different from that of an ordinary boss monster. Seo stands and ponders what to do now, wishing he could regain his former strength, as he would have easily defeated such a monster before. At that moment, Seo Dojin notices something lying on the ground nearby and turns to look at it. He approaches and finds himself noticing an old sword lying on the ground. Seo scrutinizes the sword and decides that even though he's old, he has no other option but to take it. Dojin confidently lifts his sword from the ground noting that the value of a gun is determined by the skill of the owner, not its quality or age. Now SAO prepares to face the monster using a sword, saying he'll borrow the weapon for a while. A guy furiously attacks a monster, ready to deliver a powerful blow that the monster is unable to respond to. During his onslaught, Seo tells the monster that he should be honored to fall by his hand. He grips his sword tighter. The monster lets out a loud scream before hitting Seo. GH rushes forward, preparing to kill. A moment later, there was a flash and a clang of metal. From such a heavy blow, the hero's sword quickly fell into disrepair, and he was flying downward at an incredible speed, struggling to catch a piece of rock. After a few moments, there was no more emotion on his face. He looked at his broken sword, at the dead snake behind him, and was glad he had caught the stone in time. The boy looked at his defeated foe and wondered what he should do. A second later, green slurry splattered in all directions. He pulled out a stone and noted that it was short for a long blade, but said it could be quite useful in machining. Seo Dojun leaves the place expressing satisfaction with the result, considering it better than the one he got when he passed the Namsan gate. He gets out late at night, feeling annoyed that the B-rank gate had taken him so long. He tells himself firmly that regaining his power is now his top priority, and feels relieved that his old comrades have not seen him in his present condition, which he considers weak compared to what he was before. The scene shifts to the magic gem store, where some man takes out the stones he's collected and lays them out on the counter. The salesman tells the man that he has a good amount of stones, but reminds him that the usual commission is 40%. The man tries to object, saying it's too much, and asks the salesman to lower the rate since he's a regular customer. The salesperson clearly replies that the commission at this store is lower than others, and that the base commission at the center is already 5%. The seller also confirms that the store does not keep records of sales, which means that the man will not pay taxes on the amount received. The man agrees, making sure that it really benefits him. The man then curiously asks the salesman what happened to his face. It clearly looks traumatized. The salesman, irritated and frustratedly, replies that some lunatic broke into the store, beat up the guards, and injured him himself. The buyer jokes that maybe they lost because the guards were only C-ranked. He says that the abilities of an ordinary store security guard can't match those of a hero risking his life in battles with monsters. The man leaves the store with a smile, telling the clerk that they are not strangers and he can call on him for help at any time. Seo Do-jun walks into the store right after the other man leaves. A co-worker who was previously beaten notices his presence, and his face turns to horror at the sight of Seo. Suddenly, a co-worker yells, pointing at GH, and tells the man next to him that this is the man who attacked him. The large man is surprised that this tall, handsome man could have made this whole mess, and angrily walks up to Dojung and asks if he's the one who caused all this chaos. He says that a hero can't hit a common man. The employee feels confident and relieved, believing that the large man is a seasoned hero with 7 years of experience, and that CO is beyond him. But GH responds with brutal calm, telling the large man to mind his own business and leave immediately. The large man and the employee are both shocked by Dojung's bold and unexpected answer. CO continues to speak calmly, sarcastically, wondering if he's really going to avenge the bastard's beating. The man feels furious and thinks he needs to teach Seo Dojun a serious lesson. But the veteran hero suddenly remembers an important fact. Most heroes' deaths are not from monsters, but during conflicts with other heroes, and it gives him the instinctive fear of a 7-year veteran. The veteran quickly decides to avoid a fight for now, hastily apologizing for being busy and hoping to meet another time. After the large man leaves, Seo Dojun turns to the employee and casts a piercing glare at him. Seo Dojun asks the employee in an icy, calm tone if he has any more complaints against him. The employee can't answer, so Seo throws him a bag of quality stones and asks him to calculate their value. The employee is shocked at the sight of so many rocks, and thinking to himself about Seo's real identity. How did he get them all? He picks up a calculator and starts counting. Then the employee calls out the total amount, 150 million won. Dojun expresses his displeasure at how little it is despite working all day, and orders the employee to give him the money. The staff member reminds him in fear that a commission must be deducted, but So's look scares him. There will be no commission. Dojun changes the terms with cold calm and says the commission is only 1%, demanding 148.5 million won immediately. The employee loses his temper and yells that the commission is 40%, not 1%. But he calms down a bit and explains that any deal over 100 million requires management approval. CO coldly orders immediate approval. The employee instantly calls his supervisor, explaining the situation with obvious tension and fear. Dojin suddenly snatches the phone from him and goes directly to the supervisor, demanding an order to release the money. The supervisor says he understands and asks that the phone be returned to the employee to clear the air. But Seo viciously throws the phone at the wall. Eventually, Seo announces that the boss has figured it out and orders him to hand over the money, leaving the employee speechless at his threat. The employee gives up in the face of Dojung's explicit threat, quietly agrees, and gives him the required amount in cash. Seo calmly leaves the store, telling the employee with a mocking smile that next time they should get a good deal too. 10 minutes later, a stout man enters the store and sharply asks the employee why he did not answer the call and what the previous call meant. The employee, completely broken and in despair, tells the man that he can no longer work and announces his resignation. A co-worker looks at the phone smashed against the wall and, desperately repeating himself, saying he can't take it anymore. The principal looked at all of this and then called and asked a girl named Ju Young to come over immediately. Ju Young appears, a girl with elegant purple hair, striding confidently down the street in her elegant shoes, and attracting a lot of admiring glances from passers-by. She raises her cool glasses eyes upward and realizes that she has arrived. The very same magic stone store is in front of her. When Ju Yeon enters the store, a co-worker screams in disbelief when he sees her. Ju Young smiles calmly and assures the employee that she is the same Hyunju Young he was told to wait for. The employee realizes that Ju Young is a fourth-ranked hero in Korea and the niece of his boss, and wonders why she came to this place. Ju Young takes off his coat and looks for a place 6 where to sit, and then earnestly asks the employee to tell her all the details of what happened in the store. The scene switches to the backyard of the lodge, which is set up with an exercise and training area. Seo sat and meditated while his grandmother and sister amused themselves with the rabbit, and reflected on the fact that he barely got 100 million in a whole day of hunting, which is slow in his situation. Dojin is busy trying to regain his former strength through training and meditation, realizing that regaining power is the most important task at this point. Seo realizes that mana is far more scarce in this world than in the world he used to live in, and that it can take 3 years or more to regain full strength. The GG thinks it would be a good idea to get some good gear for this period, but notices that the equipment available in this world is very limited and of average quality, even though it costs a lot. Suddenly, the house is shaken by a violent tremor, and Seo Dojung's grandmother screams in terror, thinking it's an earthquake. Suddenly, something started shaking all over the place. GH grabs his sister and says they need to take shelter in the house right away. They pile up with force on the doorstep of the house. Grandma meets them and asks what's wrong. Suddenly, the house is shaken by a violent tremor, and Grandma Seo screams in terror, thinking it's an earthquake. Young's younger sister cries out in fear, asking if it's really an earthquake. At this point, Seo quickly realizes that this is no ordinary earthquake, but something far more dangerous. Suddenly, huge cracks form in the sky, and a giant rift rips through the air above the city. He is eager to leave the house, before telling his family to be careful and not to leave the house under any circumstances. And as soon as Seo came out of the house, he quickly rushed out and started walking into this portal. The last thing he hears is his sister calling his name. The scene shifts to the Korean Heroes Association building in Seoul, where the surveillance team receives an urgent report of a new fissure in the Mapo area. Team leader realizes the gravity of the situation. New rift after 63 days. He sends the White Lion Guild and all the other heroes in the vicinity there, discovering that the rupture occurred in a residential neighborhood. He's deeply concerned about the possibility of ordinary citizens who aren't heroes getting in. He anxiously explains that if any citizen enters the rift zone, no one else will be able to help them. And if a citizen dies inside, a wave of monsters will pour out of the rift zone into the city. He emphasizes that in this case, all of Seoul would be in imminent danger, and the lives of all the residents will be at stake. Agents confirm the identity of the person who entered. It was Seo Dojun, a resident of the house over which the rift occurred. His grandmother has already informed the agency that he went into the rift to save his family, so he's probably not a hero. The computer shows the probability of a wave of monsters after such a scenario. Almost 100%. Everyone in the department was just shocked. The scene changes and we see a huge stack of papers falling on the table. Then we see Seo's stepmother, who doesn't believe he's actually awakened. A security representative in a suit stood nearby and said that although he hadn't registered as a hero, he had definitely awakened. But he immediately becomes agitated when the woman yells at him for not following orders. Kang Chul didn't do anything. Hong Hee-ju slaps the table and yells that she'd rather kill that bastard herself than complicate things and pay money to get rid of him. She yells at director Lee, demanding to tell Chul that if he fails to eliminate Seo, they'll have to refund the money tenfold. But Lee said they couldn't get to him. Seo had entered the rift near his new home. And this is a very big problem. Even the media is already talking about it. The woman in turn rejoices, realizing that he may die in the rift and they will never see him again. That suits her just fine, and she orders the big guy to watch Seo die there. Director Lee agrees and assures her that he will personally see the assignment through to completion. Meanwhile, the scene returns to Seo standing barefoot on the grass, looking up at the bright sky, and found himself in a dense forest with tall trees, standing in the middle of it thinking. Seo can hardly believe what he sees this place in front of him. He recalls that this forest is Batisqua, which he used to visit often as a child. How he loved to lie under the trees. Dojin walks through the forest, observing everything around him and marveling at how the place matches his memories exactly. Seo notices that there is plenty of mana in the air here, and the shape of the sky and clouds are exactly the same as in his old memories. The guy decides to walk out of the woods in one direction, hoping to find what he expects to see. As soon as he emerges from the forest, he is amazed to see the world tree, the giant legendary tree he has always known. The young man realizes that this tree is an extremely ancient spiritual being, containing an abundant flow of pure and high-quality mana. Seo recalls that the destruction of the previous world was due to the burning of that tree, causing the mana flow in that world to collapse. He is amazed to see the world tree completely unharmed and realizes what that means. Seo smiles confidently, asserting to himself that he can now regain his full strength. He sits under the world tree and goes into deep meditation to absorb pure mana from it. Seo remains in full concentration, continuously absorbing mana from the world tree. Days go by. First one, then two, then three, and he's still sitting in the same spot, deep in meditation and mana absorption. He forgot about eating and drinking, remaining in this state for 10 whole days, concentrating only on breathing and mana absorption. At the end of this long period, Do-jun inhales with relief, feeling the change in his strength. Suddenly, Seo picks up a strange movement and sounds from deep within the forest and is instantly alarmed. Strange glowing creatures appear in front of him, and Seo angrily mutters their famous name, Volcana. He instantly remembers that these are the same creatures that once burned the world tree and caused the destruction of the old world. The creatures rush towards the world tree, attempting to destroy it once again. Seo prepares to fight back against them, dreaming of a water weapon to aid him in this battle. The glowing creatures rush at great speed to attack him, but Seo quickly realizes that his lack of weapons is not a hindrance, and that he is capable of handling them with his current strength. He confidently proclaims that he will crush them all without exception. Seo begins to use the power gained from pure mana to attack them. He manages to deal the monsters an extremely powerful blow, and they start going crazy and dying in front of him. Seo enters the battle with the creatures. He is fully focused. The freaks are standing in front of him, ready to attack as well. Seo releases his mana energy on a grand scale, surrounding himself with an aura of power. He thinks to himself that the dense mana was released in the form of chi for a powerful blast at the enemies. Seo exhales with relief after the attack, noting that it had been a long time since he had released so much mana at once. The monsters of the volcano reappear, filled with rage, and they start coming again. Seo meets them lightning fast and powerfully, using concentrated mana to hurl it in their direction. He advances towards the monsters with strength and confidence. He easily manages to block creature attacks while remaining unfazed in a fight. Dojin declares that he has ascertained the safety of the world tree, and now intends to estimate how much mana I recovered by attacking those monsters. Seo confidently heads towards the monsters, ready to attack again. One of the monsters tries to pounce on him with fierceness, opening a mouthful of sharp fangs. But Seo Dojin meets the attack with tremendous force, fist delivering a crushing blow right into the monster's mouth. By doing so, he stopped some monsters. Then he stood up and charged a huge mana charge, ready to shoot not only this monster, but everyone else through and through. After a powerful blow, the monster is defeated, and a red gem spills out of his body and onto the ground. Seo walks past the gem and confirms that he managed to get it. He smiles confidently and announces to the monsters that once they are completely destroyed, he will receive a rare item, the eternal spark. The guy continues with a confident smile, saying that he will definitely get that artifact. CEO recalls that the chance of getting this subject was very high in the old days. He decides to test his luck and begins attacking the remaining creatures with redoubled power and fury. And he was very good at it. He stands at the end in front of the tree and looks at the result of his work. Red and yellow gems fall out of defeated monsters. Then he notices the eternal spark among them and picks it up carefully. CEO feels the satisfaction of owning the object again, and he's surprised he was able to get it back. He concentrates on the eternal spark in his hands. CEO realizes he wants to absorb more mana from the world tree, but he knows his body can't take it anymore. So he decides to absorb the energy of the eternal spark and convert the mana in your body into the element of fire. And all that fiery energy starts to envelop him completely. Even his mouth came out with fire. He had almost become a dragon. Dojin recalls that in the past he didn't even have to absorb such things. But now soaking one of these wastes a lot of time. He's going around the circle and collects the scattered gems that fell from the monsters' bodies. CEO continues to absorb the energy of the eternal spark to the last drop he can handle. Meanwhile, outside the rift zone, large crowds gather, watching the rift with fear and great anticipation. A state of chaos and tension spreads among the gawkers, and someone is screaming with rage and extreme anxiety. Damn it! Pang Song-yu expresses his annoyance and displeasure at what one bastard has done, wondering why all of this. Another man, Kim Hyun-woo, responds by pointing out that the man mentioned was acting in an attempt to save his younger sister. But Pang Sun-woo angrily dismisses this, saying it's just an excuse, claiming he went there for an easy awakening. He adds that if he wants to die, let him do it alone without disturbing others. Kim Hyun-woo asks Pang Sun-woo what the guild leader said. He replies that the leader only ordered them to wait and watch the situation unfold. Kim Hyun-woo is perplexed as to why they are waiting, and Pang Sun-woo explains that rift zones have appeared simultaneously in several major countries, such as the United States, China, Britain, Turkey, and Switzerland. Kim Hyun-woo understands why the leader is busy, commenting that something like this has never happened. He adds that other countries are controlling the situation well, and they only get in trouble because of one person. Pang gets furious and says he will wait for that man to come out first before smearing his face. A huge mysterious rift continues to grow, while the situation around it remains extremely tense and confusing. 28 days have passed since the new rift, and the Hero Association warns of the threat of a surge of level 1 monsters. It is also reported that if Citizen Mr. S, the first to enter the rift, does not come out within the next 2 days, the situation will become extremely serious. Suddenly, someone turns off the news and the TV. The scene shifts to the same smoking man who asks, "So that bastard who first entered the rift was Seo Dojin?" His assistant, Director Kim, confirms that the information is correct and that the citizen is indeed Seo Dojun. The leader wonders what the odds are that Seo Dojun will return, and Director Kim replies that unless he's a hero, the chance is almost nil, about 1%. But the leader laughs derisively, saying it's strange to regard this guy as a regular civilian. The leader then continues by mocking the Hero Association, saying that they are making huge mistakes due to lack of information. He wonders what if Seo Dojin has actually awakened. Director Kim replies that if he is truly awakened, it all depends on the rank of hero he belongs to. The leader agrees with Director Kim, adding that being able to fight and survive in the rift isn't everything. Suddenly, the leader mentions that Seo Dojung has 2 relatives and offers to keep them safe. Principal Kim is surprised and asks what they plan to do now. The leader says to take care of the family, and if Seo dies, they'll sell his family members' organs. And if he comes back, they'll charge him a huge settlement and put him in debt. Meanwhile, Seo continues to absorb the energy of the world tree. Seo feels a tremendous transformation in body and strength after absorbing the eternal spark energy and wonders how much time has passed. He confirms that he has already absorbed hundreds of eternal sparks and can now use fire mana whenever he wants. He claims his resistance to fire has increased dramatically and believes that he is in much better shape now than he was in the past when he was called the Sword Master. Seo Dojin touches the world tree in deep thoughtfulness, remembering the past and comparing it to the present. He thanks the world tree for the gift of energy and strength. He then starts collecting the red mangacapness he got while fighting monsters and puts them in a small pouch. Seo looks at the world tree and thinks sadly that he may not be destined to see it again. But then he whispers that if they ever meet again and the tree is in danger, he will protect him at all costs. The scene shifts finally to the human world. Seo Dojin steps out of the rift to the outside, landing softly on the ground, and notices that there isn't a soul around, wondering if everyone has left in anticipation of the approaching wave of monsters. He then senses a powerful aura in a certain direction and immediately decides to move towards it. He rushes swiftly towards that auric glow. Meanwhile, Pang Sunwoo and Kim Hyunwoo are standing and talking near the rift site. Seo Dejun notices their clothes from afar and realizes that they're an agent group and thinks that if they catch him, there will be a big problem. Seo Dojin decides to use his new power and unleashes a massive blast of fire in their direction. The flame reaches its target quickly, and at first nothing happens, and then already causes a huge explosion, surprising everyone present. Kim Hyun-woo exclaims in amazement, wondering where the sound came from, fearing a fire. Panic grips the group as they run to check if any citizens are injured. While everyone tries to run and retreat, Pang and Kim remain in a state of shock and anger, and Pang Sunwoo is furiously wondering why it's ignited here. At the same time, calmly moves away from the epicenter, observing the fire and assessing the quality and accuracy of ignition. Seo Dejun silently says Kusak's name and wonders if he would have been impressed by that fire if he were here. He then recalls the past, saying that Kosak would probably be happy about this fire, as he was the strongest fire mage on the continent. At that moment, Kim Hyun-woo notices something strange and suddenly stops, saying to Pang Sun-woo, "Stop!" He draws attention to the rift, and Kim then notices that the rift is behaving abnormally and informs Pang Sun-woo about it. Everyone runs towards the rift with amazement and deep concern, as it begins to change shape in strange and suspicious ways. Pang Sun-woo comes to extreme stress, wondering what's going on with the rift. Everyone is greatly surprised when they notice that the rift is gradually disappearing from the site. At this time, Seo Dojin quietly walks away, carrying his bag of stones. He looks around slightly, looking back earnestly, expressing determination and confidence in himself and what he has accomplished. A breaking news report is out in the city about the sudden disappearance of a new rift that appeared in the Mafo area this morning. The reporter announces that today marks the 29th day since Mr. S.O. entered the rift. The Hero Association, who were expecting a powerful wave of monsters, were shocked by the sudden disappearance and began a full investigation into the cause. At the same time, news reports are reporting a mysterious fire at a landfill near the fault site. Some passers-by sarcastically joke that bastard Seo Dojin must have died inside the rift. Some think he got what he deserved, while others counter that it's just common sense to stay out of the rift when he shows up. The third calmly replies that the guy died and the rift disappeared, saving Seoul from becoming a war zone. Seo, disguised, goes and thinks that if the rift is gone forever, he may never see the world tree again, but recognizes that it's probably even better that way. He looks up to the sky and ponders that there is always something worth protecting. No matter what happens next, Seo Dojin heads to the HCS building in Yeongdongpo. Inside, two men are smoking and discussing that Seo Dejun is probably dead, which means his grandmother and sister On Young can be sold for organs. As for the grandmother, she's done. But if the girl grows up, the boss might find a use for her. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by G.G. Seo enters the building in disguise and coldly asks the men where their boss is. The car with the boss was just pulling up to the office. The boss is wearing shoes, going outside, walks with a measured gait, confident in the calm after Seo Dojin's death, and asks the assistant about the day's plans. The aide reports that he has a lunch at noon and then a meeting with Director Beck in the evening. The boss smiles confidently and asks to summon Ms. Kang and get the new girls ready if there are any. He climbs the stairs, unaware of what lies ahead. Suddenly, he watches in confusion as one of his men is violently attacked and thrown aside. The boss stares in awe at the man, blood spurting out of him after the blow. And then after the impact, he flies to the floor himself. In front of him is So Dojung, who stands motionless, looking at everyone. The man rises, coughing up blood, and faces a glare from Seo, who orders him to crawl toward him like a dog. Horror creeps over the boss's face, because he was sure the guy was dead. Seo continues to humiliate the boss in front of everyone, and puts her feet up on his desk. Dojun then mockingly asks the boss if he didn't hear the order. Boss crawls across the floor to Seo Dojung, sitting leg to leg on a chair, and he tells him to bark like a dog. So declares that people like him don't deserve to be treated humanely and orders him to bark at the top of his voice. The boss is forced to bark like a dog, howling in fear and humiliation in front of everyone. His staff in the room hears Seo Dojin demanding their leader bark louder and clearer. Eventually, the humiliation reaches its limit. The boss keeps barking loudly, and everyone in the room looks on in horror and disbelief. Seo Dojin leans back in his chair, relaxing and reprimanding those around him, calling them hypocrites who suck up to him but are ready to stab him in the back at the first opportunity. He turns to his boss and asks if he thinks this is the first time he's ever dealt with a scumbag like him. The boss begins to beg Seo for mercy, begging him to forgive him and promising to serve faithfully, like a dog, for the rest of his life. But Seo refuses to listen to the pleas, yelling at him to shut up, and kicks him so hard that he flies off. Seo Dojun then turns to the glasses-wearing assistant and throws a simple glasses man at him. He tells him that he's the boss now, and he shouldn't waste his life working as a dog for another animal. Seo points to his former boss lying motionless on the floor and orders him to finish him off. The glasses-wearing aide hesitates and says the former president has many connections, and a sudden change in power would raise suspicion. He keeps asking for mercy and to give the former president another chance, to which Seo responds sharply, asking why he's so slow. Seo Dojin reminds us of how they know how to dispose of people, dump them in the sea or throw them in a landfill. He's threatening everyone that if they don't get rid of the former president, he'll throw it through the gate to become food for the monsters. The boss continues on his knees begging Seo for mercy, promising to serve him like a dog. But Dojun completely ignores the desperate pleas, and Hwang is left in a humiliated position. Dojun thinks to himself that it's worth it to end things with Hwang Chun-sop, already to avoid future problems. Then he sighs, wondering if he's gotten too soft. Seo holds out his hand to Hwang Chun-sop and tells him to come over. Hwang slowly and tentatively approaches, then grabs him and apologizes for everything he did. Seo adds that she will treat him like a big brother from now on, but Hwang suddenly freezes. Suddenly, flames erupted in Hwang Chun-sop's hand, and he began to scream in terror. Seo stares intently into his eyes and tells him that this is his last chance. When Seo's eyes burst into flames, they reflect Hwang's horror. Seo Dojun throws Hwang Chun-sop to the floor with force. It was too harsh and left him writhing in pain. Seo exits the building, telling them that if anyone dares to harm his family again, he will kill them all. They will protect them for the rest of their lives. Meanwhile, official news outlets announce that Seo Dojun has been officially confirmed dead in the rift. The action shifts to a local fast food joint. Seo Dojun sits peacefully with his sister in a public place, reading the news on his phone and seeing his death being reported everywhere. He thinks to himself that even if he announces his return to life, it will only create more chaos and more problems, and decides to take his time and mull over the situation while his younger sister, An Young, happily munches on the food in front of him. Seo feels joy watching Hee Young eat with such cheerfulness and carefree innocence. Hee Young expresses excitement and joy at the impending move to a new place. Seo tells her that she will go to kindergarten like all the other kids, and then go to school next year. But suddenly sadness appears on On Young's face, and she absolutely freezes. Seo notices her sadness and wonders if she wants to go to kindergarten. Hee Young replies with deep sorrow that the kids there are bullying her for not having a mother or father. Seo freezes, clearly touched and saddened by his little sister's words. After a moment, he says softly and affectionately that it's okay. She doesn't have to go to kindergarten. She can go straight to school. The expression on On Young's face instantly changes, and she smiles happily. Seo thinks to himself that it might be better to get her into a prestigious private school where no one will bully. He then recalls what happened at the motel, where he scolded his glasses-wearing assistant for putting his grandmother and younger sister in a motel, asking if he had a brain. The deputy tries to justify himself by saying that the motel belongs to them and is therefore very safe, but Seo interrupts him. In the room, An Young shrieks with joy when she sees her brother enter the doorstep. She and her grandmother run to him and hug him tightly, overwhelmed with happiness and longing. Grandma squeezes Dojung's hand tightly and says in a trembling voice that she can barely believe he's really back. Meanwhile, On Young continues to cry. Seo looks at her, feeling a deep sadness and obvious trepidation over her sister and grandmother's reactions. Then he gently reassures them, assuring them that he is indeed back, that he is alive, and he did it for them. In the next scene, On Young asks his brother Seo if he's a hero too. Dojun responds affectionately, asking if she really wants him to be. But she says with great sadness that she hopes he's not a hero, because the heroes fight scary monsters and sometimes die in battle. She shows him an innocent drawing depicting their family and says she and Grandma want him to stay with them as long as possible. Dojin was deeply touched by his younger sister's sincere words. He's starting to remember his past life, in the dark and cruel world where he used to live. He also remembers how much he lost in long battles with monsters. But now he recognizes that he has gained something valuable on this journey that he once forgot: his family. Seo quietly watches his family sit together peacefully in their new home and tells himself that as long as he's here, he'll be able to keep this little bit of happiness. The scene shifts to a wide overhead view of the city, where you can see the Big Hero Association building in the distance. The plot moves inside this building where a man named Nat Dai Hwan, the founder and director of the Korean Heroes Association, appears and asks in a serious tone if they found anything. His assistant replies that no information has been found so far and apologizes deeply, which irritates Nat. Nat Dae Hwan expressed concern that the disappearance of the fault could mean its sudden reappearance at any moment. His assistant confirmed that the unknown was worse than if the gate monsters came out. But Nat Dae Hwan suddenly interrupts her and insists that people's safety is the most important thing. Nat Dae Hwan is one of the top 100 heroes in the world. He could become president if he wanted to, but he does not aspire to the position. They say he only cares about protecting citizens and being prepared for new rifts. Nat De Huan instructs his assistant to continue his thorough investigation, no matter how long it takes. She then informs him that the owner of the house near the rift site has agreed to sell the property, which brings Nat De Huan some relief. He also asks that a generous additional payment to the owner be taken care of. Nat De Huan then sits at the computer and anxiously wonders what's really going on, especially considering that faults have appeared not only in Korea, but in several other countries at once. His aide confirms that the US and China are in control of the situations, but the real problem now is in England. She explains that most of Britain's strongest heroes have already been sent to fight rifts in other countries. Suddenly, an urgent warning appears on Nat De Huan's device, and he stares at the screen in horror. Breaking news reports the emergence of a new and dangerous fault in the UK, and declaring a state of emergency. Citizens are advised to remain vigilant. The scene shifts to the street, where Seo walks stealthily through the crowd, remaining in disguise. He heads towards a store specializing in buying up magical stones again, and as soon as he walks in, the salesman first greets him, and then seeing Seo Dojung, the employee screamed in horror at the sight of him. An employee calls out to the manager, pointing to Seo and saying that's the guy. The manager asks if he's talking about this person, and then gets mad at Seo and asks if he made the employee sell rocks while he was away. But Seo replies calmly and sarcastically that he still has plenty of rocks for sale. He throws the heavy bag of mana stones to the floor with force, creating a loud clatter. The manager looks at the stones and decides that they are of poor quality, like last time, and that he will not work with Seo. He'd better leave. Seo is surprised by the manager's reaction and abruptly asks if he would like to trade with him. The manager angrily insists that he will not work with Dojung at a 1% commission. It is unprofitable and leads to big losses. But Seo calmly and confidently replies that the manager will regret that decision, defiance on his face. The manager says it's impossible to get along with him and added that even the gate center charges 5%, and there are reasons for that. He stands his ground and orders Seo to leave the store and never come back. When Seo Dojin dumped the bag on the floor inside the store, a huge amount of red magic stones scattered from there. The co-worker looked up in surprise, and the manager stared in amazement at so many valuable stones. Then the manager noticed among them a particularly rare stone known as the Hero Stone, which is worth a lot. Seo calmly replied to their astonished looks that if they weren't interested in buying, he would just take the stones and leave. The properties of the Hero Stone were clearly explained. It was an extremely rare stone with tremendous power and huge monetary value. It was created by a Mexican drug trafficker, Carazamon, who once tried to take apart mana stones to create drugs, but during it, the power of the stone awakened the hero in him for the first time. Since then, these stones have become extremely important to heroes due to their incredible power and ability to boost mana. In the store, the manager and employee were still staring at the rare stone in amazement, fully aware of its high value. But Seo calmly asked them to put the stones back in the bag as he was about to leave. The manager's attitude changed instantly, and he turned to Seo with a broad smile. inviting him to sit down for the duration of the stone evaluation. The staff member immediately began collecting the stones and laying them out neatly on the table. Seo Dojin sat down and waited for the evaluation, quietly sipping his drink. While he waited, the manager cautiously tried to negotiate a commission of only 0.5%, expressing concern that this was too low. Seo indifferently told them then not to make a deal, causing the manager to quickly apologize. The manager asked Seo why he lowered the commission to 0.5%, and he said the reason was because they pissed him off. The manager, filled with fear, and hastily apologized, admitting that he had made a mistake without thinking carefully. Seo coldly remarked that he was tired of hearing apologies and bluntly asked if the manager would accept the commission or not. The employee watched on, angry at the way Seo treated his manager, inwardly thinking he was rude and arrogant. The manager tried to explain the significance of these stones and said that most other companies buy them, and even without a fee, and that SEO doesn't charge a high rate here. But still, maybe 10%? Seo interrupted him. Too long a conversation. If you don't like it, he'll leave. The manager began to lower the rate quickly, first offering 9%, then 8%. But Seo mockingly rejected all offers. The manager kept haggling, gradually reducing the commission to 7%, then to 6.5%. But Seo refused all options and mocked his inability to negotiate. A co-worker was just shocked by this. The manager knelt down in despair in front of Seo Dojin. But Seo offered him a 1% rate as a gesture based on their previous dealings. However, when the manager in his mind called Seo a robber for such a bet, it became clear how angry and desperate he was. Seo smiled calmly and said quietly to the manager that for information, he still has about 7 sacks full of the exact same stones. At that point, the manager's attitude completely changed. The contract was finalized quickly. Seo Dojun looks at the phone and thinks that the dream of buying a house for 110 billion won no longer seems impossible given the funds raised. But soon he faces a new problem. He can't get quality mana stones by visiting a regular gate. It occurs to him that it would be great to freely enter the rifts, as they are a major source of high-quality stones. Suddenly, Seo Dojin's phone makes a loud notification sound. The worried store manager asks if the monster wave has now started. Seo Dojun looks at his phone and sees a message about a new wave of monsters in the UK, especially in the southern part of the country. The emergency notice advises all travelers and business people to review their plans immediately. A sarcastic smile appears on Seo Dojin's face, and he mentally calls those who allowed it to fail incompetent. Seo walks down the street remembering how he used to be a hero, acting strictly under orders and rushing immediately to help in the rift zone. But now he tells himself he's not living like that anymore. In another scene, someone is grilling meat on a grill. Yoon and Grandma are sitting at the dinner table, clearly surprised by the sumptuous feast before them. Grandma, looking at the menu with disbelief, wonders aloud how 100 grams of meat can cost 250,000 won, clearly worried about being expensive. But Seo Dojun calmly and confidently replies that he made a lot of money this time, and they can eat without worry and as much as they want. Eun is glowing with happiness, starting to eat good food, clearly enjoying the flavor, and not hiding my joy. Grandma, on the other hand, remains wary and looks worried about the high cost of food. Ignoring Grandma's worries, Dojin asks the waitress to bring more of the most expensive meat on the menu. Grandma asks again why he's ordering so much food, saying they're unlikely to be able to handle it all. But Seo smiles confidently and softly tells her to just enjoy today and eat as much as she wants, encouraging her. Grandma hesitates at first, but eventually takes a piece of meat and tastes it. Yoon excitedly declares how much she likes the food and rushes her grandmother to try it as soon as possible, assuring her that the flavor is just magical. Grandma's starting to eat, and her face shows signs of pleasure and happiness at the taste. Everyone was happy. At that time, a mysterious figure with purple hair and confidently heads towards where Seo's family is sitting. A mysterious woman approaches Seo Dojin's desk and addresses him. Seo turns to her with a sharp and confident look, waiting to see what she has to say. The mysterious woman politely asks to speak to him in private, but Seo Dojun coldly replies that she's eating with her family right now, and if she has anything to say, let her come over when he's done. After Seo Dojin's cold reply, Young freezes in astonishment and stares after him in silence, amazed that she has been ignored despite her fame. Young calmly agrees to his request and walks away and sits down nearby. She wondered what kind of strange man dared to ignore her like that. And meanwhile, the diners start whispering, recognizing her as the world-famous heroine of Sarang. There are whispers throughout the restaurant. Everyone says it's the legendary Hyunju Young, the world's strongest hero and a global celebrity. Some admire her strength, while others wonder who the man is that she waits so patiently for. Hyunju Young ponders that Seo Do-jun is the man who came out of nowhere 2 months ago, was declared dead in the rift, but was actually alive. She recalls how his mere look and word made her feel anxious. The lady wonders how Seo can be so strong in just 2 months. She confidently thinks that there's no way he can reach S rank in 2 months, so he must have some special ability. Meanwhile, Seo's family finishes their meal, and Eun-young happily says how much she enjoyed this delicious lunch. They are about to leave, but they stop. When Eun-young and Grandma hear heavy footsteps approaching, Seo turns around calmly, but the expression on his face becomes serious. He is preparing for the meeting. Suddenly, a man appears and starts laughing mockingly, looking at how he was able to get out of the gate. It becomes clear that this Kang Cheol-woo is someone Seo has been looking for a long time because of events in the past. Hyunju Young sees Kang Cheol-woo and sighs in annoyance, wondering why this particular type showed up right now. Kang confidently approaches Seo, and his family stands behind him, tense and in shock. Bastard blocks Seo's path and tells him not to move, to stay put. But Seo ignores him and turns to Hyunju Young, reminding him that she talked business with him. Cheol-woo turns around in shock, seeing Hyunju Young suddenly stand in front of him. Seo calmly tells Hyunju Young that he'll listen to her, but she has to take care of his family first. Hyunju Young cautiously asks what exactly is wrong, and he calmly replies that she needs to call a cab for his family and help them get in. Seo then says to Hyun with an extremely confident look that he'd have to stay late to pay someone back. I see who that someone is. The scene is moved to the street outside the restaurant. Hyunjo Young fulfills the request by helping Grandma and Yoon Young get into the cab and reassuring them not to worry. She bids a warm farewell to little Eun Young, waving good-naturedly at her. The cab with So Do-jung's grandmother and sister leaves, and Hyunju Young sighs in relief as he looks at them. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Seo gives Kang Cheol-woo a devastating blow, causing him to stagger backward, writhing in pain. Kang Cheol-woo becomes furious, his eyes burning with rage, and he swears that Seo will pay dearly for this blow. One of the restaurant employees tries to handle the situation and asks that there be no fighting on the premises. But Kang Cheol-woo rudely pushes her away in anger and orders her to get out of his way immediately. Chaos ensues in the restaurant, with customers rushing for the exits in fearing that things will escalate into something terrible. Kang yells at Seo, threatening to kill him, and asks how he wants to die. But Seo meets it with great confidence and power, throwing another hard punch that knocks Khan completely off balance. Kang Cheol-woo backs away, shrinking due to the pain, and clearly shaken by the sudden lunge, trying to stay on his feet. Seo calmly walks over to him and says his name clearly. He then forcefully reminds the man of what he has done in the past and says he will not let him die for now. The guy angrily states that they have tons of topics to talk about, and he wants to discuss them directly and to the point. Kang sarcastically replies that he won't talk to a lowlife, and mentions that even his own father abandoned him, and his stepmother ordered him to be killed. Then Seo Do-jun pulls out his phone and starts recording the conversation and asks Hannah to repeat it clearly. Kang Cheol-woo is furious and refuses and yells that he would never do it. Then he explodes with rage and insults Seo Do-jun's mother, calling her a fallen woman. He instantly lunges at Seo Do-jun with wild fury and threatens to kill him on the spot. But Seo Do-jun effortlessly parries the attack with his unrivaled strength. And once again, using the awakened mana, gives Kang Cheol-woo a devastating blow. Khan falls down, unable to believe how such a strong attack was stopped so easily. Seo swiftly approaches to continue the crushing onslaught. The fight gets more and more fierce, but Kang Cheol-woo can't keep up with Seo's speed and power. And he's getting hit with punch after punch. Chaos is growing in the restaurant, and one of the employees behind the counter with trembling hands is trying to call the police. But Hyunju Young interferes, gently stopping her and telling her she'll handle the situation herself. The employee thanks Hyunjo Young with deep appreciation for stepping in and quelling the crisis. Seo unleashes a veritable hail of hard punches on Khan, and then hits a powerful punch, sending him crashing to the floor with a deafening thud. Hyun is surprised that B-rank hero Kang Cheol-woo fell so easily. The speculation about Gigi's strength continues. Some say he could be A-rank, but even so, he shouldn't be able to overpower a B rank so effortlessly. Hyunjo Young calls out as he calmly takes his opponent's back. From afar, Hyunju Young observes what's going on and quietly tells Seo that he'll die if he keeps this up. He looks down at his opponent and leaves him, throwing his breathless body on the floor. Hyun then seriously asks how much he really knows about Kang Chol-woo. Seo answers with the utmost calmness and confidence that she knows enough, and asks in wonder if this is a problem for her. Hyunju Young firmly states with obvious concern that yes, it's a problem. She explains the reason. It's because Kang Cheol-woo's cousin is Kang Yun-pyo, the hero of Shrang. But Seo indifferently replies that he knows about it. He realizes the danger, and yet he's not afraid of the consequences. Hyung thinks his behavior is extremely reckless. Hyun says that the only reason Kang is still alive after everything he's done is because his cousin Kang Young-bai is guarding him. She calls Seo's actions dangerous and insane, and warns Senior Kang will definitely kill him. Hyunju Young asks Seo Dojun if he's really afraid of Kang Young-bai. Seo states with icy calmness that the important thing right now is that she's starting to annoy him. They stand face to face, their gazes sharp and challenging each other. Meanwhile, the frightened waitress, in fear, thinks about the fact that Hyun promised to handle the situation. The tension between Seo Dojun and Hyunju Young continues to rise, and it seems like the standoff has been going on for quite some time. But Hyuncho Young sighs and apologizes to Seo, saying she didn't want to show up like that, but came because her uncle asked her to fix the problem. She then gets right to the point and tells him that she knows about the mana stones being sold in that store and asks him to sell them to her. Seo coldly and bluntly asks how much she is willing to pay for the stones. Hyuncho Young replies firmly that he'll buy as much as he has, regardless of the quantity. Seo smiles at such an offer and asks how much. She confidently explains that the S-rank hero's wealth exceeds anything he can imagine. While Kang Cheol-woo is still lying on the ground, Seo says he's okay with the deal, but he has one condition to fulfill first, and says that the condition doesn't have to be difficult, especially if Hyuncho Young is in charge. In an unexpected transition to another scene, a teacup crashes to the ground with a clatter. Seo's stepmother screams in frustration, saying he should have been dead, should have died back in the new rift. Elsewhere, a second cup breaks and a bald man appears in a state of shock and bewilderment. The bald man deeply apologizes and says that even the Hero Association was sure he was dead. Hong Hee-ju is seized with extreme anger, yelling at a co-worker after smashing a cup on the floor, trying to find an excuse. The staff member hesitates for a moment before nervously saying that he has important information to report. He informs Hong Hee-ju that Kang Cheol-woo was beaten up by Seo Do-jun. She's completely shocked by the news and thinks to himself that Seo may have figured something out. Hong Hee-ju begins to think through the implications, telling herself that if her husband finds out, it will cause a huge problem. However, she adds that she will find a way to deal with it. She also worries that if the news hits the media, it will bring down the stock. She screams again, ordering staff to shut everything down, control media and social media, and cut off all communications. She demands the first thing she does is break contact with the police. Lee calmly informs her that the media and the police are already muted. Hong Hee-ju relaxes a little and tells Lee that he's done a good job. But he quietly reminds her that these measures are neither permanent nor flawless. President Lee moves closer to Hong Hee-ju and quietly informs him that Kang Cheol-woo's cousin is Kang Yun-po. Hong Hee-ju is shocked to the core and quickly stands up, asking President Lee if he really means Kang Yun-pyo specifically. She recalls that Kang Cheol-woo had a bad reputation, and everyone thought that Kang Yun-pyo still adored her stupid brother. Though in reality, the younger Khan did all the dirty work for his famous brother. Lee explains that having Kang Cheol-woo in the media like this would reflect badly on Kang Yun-po as well, so the older Kang acts out as well. Hong Hee-ju orders Lee to arrange a meeting with Kang Yun-po right away. Hong Hee-ju then calmly tells him that HC's capital, run by Hwang Chun-seop, betrayed them and asks if that's true. Lee confirms. Hong Hee-ju is visibly furious and orders Lee to contact Prosecutor Park immediately. She vehemently states that Hwang Jun-seop will pay dearly for choosing Seo Do-jun's family over her. The scene shifts to another part of the story, where it becomes clear that there are now 37 active faults in South Korea. Of these 37 zones, 5 are on the verge of becoming full-fledged gates, while others can only be visited by officially registered heroes. Hyun's identity is verified and she is granted access. A staff member wishes her luck in her assignment. Hyuncho Young enters the RF area with a group of people. Seo Do-jun suddenly appears, a hood hiding his face. He thinks to himself that it was Hyun who paved the entrance to this area. Another hero appears, Yeon In-ju, an A-rank hero and the head of the Flower Guild. Hyun Cho-young calmly replies that she had no other choice and that she couldn't just stand by. Oh, and it's boring on low-ranking riffs. She suddenly stops and notices someone in their path. It turns out to be Seo Do-jun standing in the middle of the road waiting for them. At that moment, she recalls Seo telling her earlier that he had one condition: to allow him to enter the rift zone. In exchange, he promised to sell her all the stones mined inside on terms favorable to her. Hyun Cho-young wonders with disbelief if Seo came to such a dangerous rift just for the rocks, thinking it's complete insanity. But she reminds herself that she needs the hero mana stones produced here anyway, so she doesn't care so much about his motives. Hyun Cho-young and her team enter the rift, which seems full of trees and a peaceful atmosphere. Yeon In-ju asks her who the person she was talking to is. She coldly replies that it's just an acquaintance. Jong turns to Hyun sarcastically, asking if Seo Do-jun is really just an acquaintance. Maybe he's her boyfriend? Hyun replies with obvious annoyance that it's not what she thinks it is. She explains that she just owed him. Chon and asks in bewilderment how such an S-rank hero could owe anyone anything. Hyun looks slightly annoyed and says bye-bye, trying to end the topic quickly. Meanwhile, one member of the group suddenly shows signs of panic, as if sensing something unusual. Seo Do-jun calmly turns his head, completely confident, and seemed to notice the same strange presence, suddenly and without warning. Huge creatures that look like giant birds of prey are descending from the sky and launch a surprise attack on the group. Chon screams in fear upon seeing these creatures, thinking they are a dangerous type of monsters. Hyun immediately takes command, organizing the team and giving clear orders. But suddenly, Seo swoops among them on his new energy. The scene gets tense when Seo soars high into the air towards one of the monsters, showing incredible speed and strength in battle. Hyun and the group are stunned and amazed at what Seo Do-jun is doing. The rest of the team marvels at his power and skill. Seo at this point activates his strong fist of energy and says that this is the first monster corpse on his account today. The scene goes back a couple moments. One of the band members irritatedly notices that the monsters appeared right away. The monsters begin rapid attacks on the team, and everyone tries to dodge and retreat. Hyun quickly moves to attack, ordering Jin-ho and De-young Sang to cover the flanks, and asking another person to secure the lower section. Seo rushes towards the monster preparing to strike, and a spark of power and challenge flashes in his eyes. It's coming off the ground. A direct confrontation begins between Seo and the monster, who attacks furiously, but he blocks it with his immense strength. Around Seo Do-jun's hand, mangacaps begin to flash, showing that he is preparing a powerful strike. Seo Do-jun is attacked by a monster, causing a huge explosion that shakes the whole area. Hyun Cho-young and the rest of the team watch this scene in stunned silence and bewilderment, while Seo calmly walks towards the defeated monster on the ground. He stands in front of a giant beast lying on the ground. One of the team members asks in utter amazement if the monster really died from a single blow. Seo calmly and seriously replies that the monster isn't dead yet. He delivers a crushing finishing blow to eliminate him completely. The faces of the team members, including Hyun Cho-young, clearly read the shock and tension of the show of power. Jong asks with disbelief and amazement who this Seo really is, marveling at his overwhelming power. Hyun, visibly embarrassed, awkwardly replies that he's just a strong man. But Chon protests in his heart, indignantly asking how she can say that when everyone saw him kill the monster with a single blow. The tension is clearly reflected on Hyun Cho-young's face, while her companion continues to speak passionately about how strong Seo is and how he was able to defeat such a formidable beast. Hyun thought about it and really realized that this bird would be able to put down not every badass hero. Who is he after all? She turns to her partners and talks about them changing the plan. The plan is that Hyun will now go to the central area. Everyone was surprised. The scene has changed and we see Seo carving the bird and looking for rocks. He sees Hyun walk up to him and holding the rock in her hands says she won't share with the bums. Hyun says she didn't originally intend to ask for a share of the spoils. Then she adds in a serious and clear tone that his skills aren't really suited for such a place. She confidently asks him if he's interested in going deeper into the rift zone with her. Seo Do-jun smiles confidently, and he says it sounds like fun. Hyun steps forward and says with full confidence that she knows the area well and asks him to follow her. She takes a swift dash into the woods, while Seo quietly watches her from afar. He watches her disappear at an incredible speed, but he stays where he is without saying a word. After a moment's reflection, Seo begins a rapid sprint, and moving in the same direction Hyun Cho Young went. The scene shifts to another group of hunters, where one of them asks Chan, the guild leader, if they will move on. Chan asks her if she thinks she can keep up with that speed, and she honestly admits that she doesn't know. Chan then informs the team that they are just background characters today and orders them to continue hunting as usual. Jung feels an inner sadness, thinking that even though she's an A-rank hero, she feels completely insignificant, especially compared to S-rank heroes like Hyun Cho Young. She continues to ponder, adding that the same goes for that SEO guy. Hyun Cho Young continues to move at a tremendous speed and turns back, seeing no one, wondering if she should slow down a little bit. But suddenly, Seo whizzes past her at an incredible speed, easily overtaking her. Hyun watches stunned as Dojun sidesteps her effortlessly, and shock is red on her face. She is bewildered and frustrated thinking about what just happened, because she is the second fastest in Korea. Seo smiles calmly and tells Hyun Cho Young that she's slower than he expected. He adds sarcastically that she ran so that no one would catch up with her. Hyun Cho Young yells in annoyance and confusion that she didn't do it that way. Her face expresses obvious embarrassment and annoyance. Seo pauses for a moment to survey the path ahead, and Hyun seemed to be panting, trying to keep up. He looks up at the massive mountain on the horizon, and his face shows a strong interest in the place. Hyun notices his focused gaze and nervously asks what's up. She earnestly explains that this place is the lair of a Rift Zone boss monster, and says the boss monster is called Caesarion, a giant beast similar to a pteranodon, about 20 meters long. She firmly states that there is no point in even thinking about fighting him. It takes at least 3 S-ranked heroes to destroy him. He responds to Hyun Cho Young's warning and simply asks if the boss monster possesses a high-end E-class mana stone. Hyun confirms that yes, he does indeed have such a quality mana stone. She suddenly realizes that Seo is calmly approaching the place and panics, asking if he's really going to fight. Hyun voices her displeasure, saying she didn't bring him here for such a reckless idea. But Seo pays no heed to her warnings and instead rushes there with incredible speed. Hyun screams in horror and utter amazement, not realizing what Seo has in mind. She tries to stop Seo, yelling after him to stop, but he ignores her call and continues to race toward his goal. A scene appears where a massive mountain takes up the entire landscape, and the place looks deeply mysterious. Moments later, Hyun Cho Young slows her steps, stunned, reflecting on what had just happened and feeling very confused because of Seo Dojun's speed and strength. She turns around and sees the body of Caesarion's main monster, lying on the ground, already defeated. Hyun's face reads shock and amazement as she realizes that the huge Caesarion beast was so easily felled by Seo. She recalls that Caesarion is an incredibly powerful monster, and that in the past the only one who was able to defeat him was a Shirang hero named Park Hayul. Park Hayul is said to be a very famous Shirang hero, famous for slaying the monster Caesarion. It is also explained that he was accompanied by 30 Shirang heroes. He could not go it alone. It is claimed that all the heroes involved in that first battle died, and only Park Hayul barely survived. Later it is mentioned that Park Hayul decided to have a revenge battle, this time accompanied by another Shirang hero and 200 A-Rang heroes. A fierce battle broke out. The fighters were throwing green ropes, and they were grabbing at the body parts of a huge dragon. In the end, Park Hayul attacked him and was in the lead. The dragon shouted, and all the fighters came at him at once to kill him. Finally, he was able to kill Caesarion. But despite this success, most of the heroes who joined the Battle of Vengeance were destroyed. Then it is revealed that the huge guild founded by Park Hayul never fully recovered its power even 3 years after that battle. Back in the present, there are clear signs of anger and irritation on Hyun's face. When Seo sarcastically tells her that she knows full well she didn't help kill the monster at all, Hyun continues to mull over what happened in deep shock, telling herself that she wouldn't have believed it without seeing it with her own eyes. She repeats again in utter bewilderment that the famous monster Caesarion was defeated with a single blow by Seo. It shocked her more and more. At that moment, Seo picks up a huge mana stone mined from Caesarion's body and stares at him calmly without saying a word. Seo coldly tells Hyun Ju-yeon that he doesn't need a guide anymore. He turns around and informs her that he will act on his own from now on, then begins to walk away, leaving the place behind. But Hyun stops him and asks if he's going to take other valuable parts of the monster's body, pointing to the beak, claws, and other parts. Seo Dojun turns to her. and with a calm, confident smile replies that these things cost nothing, neither time nor money. He explains that it is more profitable for him to spend time collecting mana stones from different monsters, and she can keep the rest of it as payment for what she spent. Hyun-cho looks at them silently and with great amazement and declares that she doesn't need them. The scene switches to Mount. A group of other heroes appear nearby. We see a huge bag, and a bunch sitting in silence around the bag and clearly shaken. They begin to disbelieve that Seo borrowed a large bag and returned with it completely filled with mana stones. It would take them 20 hours of hunting together, maybe 3 whole days given the volume of the bag. Hyun Cho-yeon sits down on a rock, deep in thought and confusion about Seo's true identity. She continues to wonder in amazement how he managed to collect such a huge amount of stones so quickly. Jeon-in-ju is overcome with fear as she recalls Hyun's words and is shocked that Seo defeated Kassarian alone. She thinks with deep concern that this level of strength alone makes him the strongest in South Korea, and maybe even the whole world. She turns at the sound and sees Seo walking calmly with great confidence, carrying another sack full of stones. The group continues to stare at him in awe as he fills another bag, noticing that if they told anyone what happened today, no one would believe them. They would be called crazy. One of them sternly warns the others never to speak of this event to anyone, insisting that no one will believe it anyway. The girl approaches. From afar, the team sees Seo and Hyun talking to each other, though they can't hear their words. The team begins to discuss the nature of the relationship between the two, wondering if there is something romantic behind it. One of the contestants remarks that any man next to Hyun must be very handsome, calling them an incredibly attractive couple. Chan thinks deeply and tells himself that it would be strange if their connection turned out to be only fleeting. She adds with surprise that Seo is so at ease with, as if she's just an ordinary person. No one acts like that. Suddenly, Seo calms down and hands over one of the bags filled with mana stones. Hyun stares at Seo, frozen in shock, as he walks away without saying a word. Chan asks the team in utter amazement why he left without a word. Hyun, still stunned, confirms that he really did leave without saying a word. Jung then asks about the bags left behind and if he really gave them all away. Hyun said that when she told Seo Dojun that he would become incredibly famous as a dragon slayer, he replied that he wasn't interested in fame and left the stones with her. The whole team reacts with visible shock and disbelief upon hearing this. Jung, completely confused, asks what kind of person this Seo Dojun is. Hyun is silent, staring into the void, deep in thought again with curiosity and confusion. Who was this man? The scene shifts to a close-up of the city, then into some big building, and then to Park Ha-yul, who lands powerful repeated punches on the punching bag. Park Ha-yul continues to attack with all his might, shouting with incredible power, reflecting his determination. He tears forward with furious intensity and strikes extremely hard, a punching bag through and through. After the training session ends, Park Ha-yul looks exhausted and angry, and notices that he's in bad shape himself. At this point, Prasulgwa approaches him, asking him to calm down. The man goes on to explain that patience in difficult times will only increase his fame and reputation. Park Ha-yul agrees and says he'll make everyone who underestimated him pay the bill. The man adds that this day is sure to come, and when it does, everyone will bow down to Park Ha-yul. He notes that no one knows better how to defeat the Kassarian monster than Puck himself. The man smiles and says that Puck will go down in history as the one who defeated Kassarian with a minimal team, and that the Heroes Association might give him exclusive rights to hunt the monster. Park Ha-yul laughs confidently, confirming that he is the one who knows the best way to defeat the monster. He then looks at an old group photo that reminds him that his guild is much smaller than it was 3 years ago. Nevertheless, Park continues to speak confidently, claiming that he's still the only one capable of downing this giant flying monster. The man smiles and assures me that no one but him will be up to the task. The story switches to another location, showing an image of a large building, some documents and photos that mention Seo Dojun's name. A man named Kang Young-bio holds up the papers and curiously asks, "Did this guy beat up his brother?" This is confirmed, and one of the men explains that Kang Cheo-woo tried to get rid of Seo by sending him to the rift months ago. But the man didn't die. Instead, he awakened inside the rift. Also mentioned is Hong Hee-ju, CEO of T Group and daughter of the president of W Group. She was the client who ordered the elimination of Seo Dojun. Young-bio wonders why a rich woman like her would take care of a worthless like Seo Dojun. It is explained that Seo is the illegitimate child of the president of T Group, who was adopted when he was 7 years old, and after having a child of her own, Hong Hee-ju took him out of the family 6 years ago. Kang Young-bio smiles mockingly and says that family ties mean nothing in the world of the rich. He then asks how much Kang Chilu was paid for his work, and they tell him 3 billion won. Kang Young-bio notices that his brother screwed up anyway. The man adds that Cholu was in a terrible condition. His body covered in burns, completely blind, and on the verge of death. Kang Young-bio is shown getting ready to play golf and commenting on how tough Seo is. He hits it and the ball goes in the hole, and then declares that if it were him, he would have chopped off his limbs and crushed his skull. Another man mentions a rumor that Hyun Ju-yeon helped Seo Do-jun after that incident. Kang Young-bio becomes furious and exclaims why Hyun would help someone like Seo. He misses because of anger and yells at the assistant, demanding to find out immediately what their relationship is. He presses the assistant, insisting he needs to know all the details. And if it's not an affair, then there's some kind of contract or deal. The assistant is extremely embarrassed and says he'll get right on it and storms out of the room. The rage on Kang Young-bio's face is clear when he's clutching a golf club and throws it to the ground with a clatter, expressing his displeasure at the situation. He thinks to himself that Hong Hee-ju will turn to him soon because she'll want to hire him for the work that Kang Chul-woo didn't do. A sly, confident smile appears on her face because she's a rich woman with tons of money and he's going to make a great living off of it. The scene shifts to the nighttime landscape of the city. Seo walks alone at night by lantern light to his new home. He thinks to himself that hunting in rift zones is far more effective than in normal gates. The guy realizes that now he'll need Hyun Cho-yeon's help to get in and out of the rifts. Next, they show Hyun talking to Seo earlier about the mana stone obtained from the Caesarian monster. She says selling the stone would attract media attention, which would spend 24 hours a day looking for who killed the monster, so it's better to hide it now. Hyun adds that if he wants fame, she won't hold him back, and asks what he intends to do. Seo smiles calmly and tosses her a bag full of mana stones collected from the rift. He decides to himself that he will find another way to access the rifts without relying on Hyun. Seo Do-jun decides to return to the new home Hwang has prepared for him. Upon entering the house, he immediately notices something strange. That made him feel uneasy. He scrutinizes the shoes at the entrance and makes sure there are strangers in the house. Suddenly, his younger sister Eun-young happily welcomes him. Seo turns around and sees a group of men in black suits standing suspiciously behind Eun-young and their grandmother. The facial expression of the man sitting in the center clearly gives away his high status. Eun-young swiftly runs to Seo and clutches onto him tightly. Seo calmly but warily asks the men who they are and what they are doing here. A man introduces himself as Prosecutor Park Cheolyan of the Seoul Prosecutor's Office and asks if he knows a certain Hwang Chan-sop. Seo Do-jun remains silent and tense, while Eun-young clings to him tenaciously, frightened by what's happening. The prosecutor informs Seo Do-jun that he is under emergency arrest on suspicion of being involved in illegal financial transactions. The action shifts to the prosecutor's office. In the interrogation room, Seo sits on a chair with his hands tied to it. He looks around suspiciously and listens. Prosecutor Park walks down the hallway and confidently reports to Lee on the phone about Hwang Chan-sop and Seo Do-jun's obedience. He thanks the prosecutor for helping his daughter study abroad and walks into the room. The man asks to say hello to Director Hong before ending the call. In front of him, he sees Glass in a room with Seo. The prosecutor states that he became an investigator for one important purpose. His true mission is to cleanse society of unwanted trash like them. He throws the case documents on the table in front of him. Now the prosecutor is angrily questioning Seo Do-jun about his past actions. A man presents a list of felonies that threaten a 10-year prison sentence. Park shows the documents to Seo, saying that his buddy Hwang has already testified. Guy looks at his ward with disdain, waiting for his reaction to the accusations. He raises his tone sharply and asks if Seo thinks he's a liar or what. Seo Do-jun suddenly blames everything on Hong Hee-ju, his stupid stepmother, calling her the culprit. Prosecutor Park sharply interjects who Hong Hee-ju is, pretending not to be familiar with the name. Seo reflects on the fact that Hwang Chang-seop is probably already completely crushed by the situation. The situation is escalating. Puck shakes his leg in annoyance and talks about how the guy must have heard something wrong somewhere. The investigator yells with rage at whether the guy suspects the Korean prosecutors are a joke. He says Seo's life is now completely ruined. But Do-jun bestows him with his crowning glare of a cold-blooded, deranged killer. And Puck is horrified by it and starts shaking. He recoils from the GH's face and continues to stare at him in horror. No longer clearly feeling in charge here, the investigator clenches his teeth at his insignificance and the power of Seo. With fury, he brings his hand back up, preparing to slap the little bastard in front of him, but stops at the last moment as he is distracted by someone entering the interrogation room. Suddenly, the assistant quietly asks Prosecutor Pak to step out for an urgent conversation. In the hallway, the prosecutor exclaims in bewilderment. The prosecutor asks incredulously if the appliance is broken at all. The technician calmly reports that the apparatus is fully functional after inspection. The shocked prosecutor pokes his finger at a document that shows the hero's scanner revealing the status of an ordinary person. He cries out the impossibility of error, suggesting the falsity of Seo's awakening data. The prosecutor doesn't believe the T group could have gotten the boy's awakening data wrong. He's concerned about Seo's knowledge of Hong, his client. At this time, the kid sits by himself in the interrogation room, tied up looking at the papers. Seo Dejun bitterly realizes why prosecutors are called the scum of the earth. He's thinking about how to destroy the place. He is overcome by a desperate desire to save Grandma and Yun Young by fleeing, and the door opens. Hyun's sudden appearance in the room causes Seo to sharply question her purpose. The woman admits that she herself doesn't know why she's here, and the hero breathes a sigh of relief. At least someone has come to get him out of here. Hyun emphatically warns Seo against any rash action now. She explains that using his force will make the situation worse. Seo asks again why she's here, and Hyun clarifies that her motive is not direct help, but something else. The visitor firmly declares her belief in his innocence, unwilling to stand by. Seo Dejun thoughtfully accepts her words about not being able to ignore injustice. Hyun announces that the Hero Association has launched an investigation into his case. She clarifies their focus: unregistered heroes and a new rift in the Mapo area. A man abruptly asks about the safety of his family in the current situation and catches the girl off guard. Hyung replies with annoyance that she's not his personal secretary. Why do I have to keep an eye on his family? In response, the guy stares at her intently, which makes the girl avert her eyes in embarrassment. Still, the woman reassures the guy, confirming that his family is safe. Seo Dejun sincerely thanks her and promises to repay this debt in the future. Hyung is slightly embarrassed, asking him to just be a little patient with the current circumstances. She assures him that she will try to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. It was later revealed that instead of a direct defense, Hyun exposed Prosecutor Park's corruption, securing his resignation. The official investigation confirms Seo Dejun's complete non-involvement in the incident, but his fake documents were seen by the court, though because of Hyun's defense, he was given just a suspended sentence. Suddenly, a message pops up on the screen in the car that an unknown monster has appeared in the UK, attacking citizens. The creature resembles a praying mantis, 1.5 meters tall, 4 eyes, powerful jumps. The guy calls the monster Macassian, causing the girl to be perplexed. Hyung emphasizes that the monster's name is only known to the Heroes Association. How did he find out? He turns to her and says that monster names aren't made up by accident. Mana stones contain not only energy, but also hidden information about creatures. Analyzing them reveals the monster's true name and data. In today's world, they use science. In the ruined one, magic. So if both worlds have the same monsters, Dejun probably knows the names of most of the monsters. He elaborates where, for example, red fire ant extract is harmless to humans, but dangerous to Macassians. Guy reveals that their poison paralyzes the monster, preventing uncontrolled attacks. Hyun looks at him silently at first, and then wonders in bewilderment who Seo Dejun really is. But the guy stares silently ahead at the road. Suddenly, Hyun abruptly hits the brakes and the car comes to a stop. She turns to him in a rage and interrupts his musings, checking to see if her interlocutor is listening at all. But Seo suddenly asks a grim question. What will happen to him when he finally kills his stepmother, Hong Hee-ju? The scene shifts abruptly to a woman who is biting her nails out of stress. She turned out to be the same vile woman, the stepmother of the main character, Hong Hee-ju. Her security chief Lee stands in front of her, silently and guiltily looking at her tantrum. Hong Hee-ju states with irritation that the current situation is clearly monstrous for them. Her anger is directed at Hyun Cho-young, whose motives remain a mystery. The man recognizes the ambiguity of the relationship between Seo and Hyun. He is concerned about the nature of their relationship and the fact that they know each other. The thought of Hyun Ju-yeon causes the stepmother to explode with indignation. She doesn't understand what's going on here. She gets up and starts yelling, demanding an explanation about Seo's status as a non-hero. After all, earlier, Lee had talked about being awakened. Lee recognizes the possibility of Seo's actual awakening. Perhaps he has some ability that can fool the detector. The stepmother is filled with rage. An order is given to contact Kang Yun-pyo immediately. She wants to give him 20 billion at first, but dramatically ups the ante to 30 billion, demanding that he start work immediately. The gangster contemptuously rejects the offer, insisting on double the payment. The accomplice doubts the adequacy of the requested 60 billion. Kang Yun-pyo confidently declares her indispensability to Hong Hee-ju. She doesn't have a choice anymore. He adds that for such a customer, that amount is not a problem after completing the task. And with Hyung, an S-rank hero, he would like to fight. Assistant Kang grimly recognizes the danger of Hyun Cho-young as an adversary. But Bandit slams his foot down on the table with force, which puts his servant in a state of animal fear. He speaks irritably about the misunderstanding. Kang arrogantly states that not all S ranks are equal in strength. He kills her in 20 minutes. And the assistant has no choice but to cowardly tuck his tail and agree with his boss. Kang warms up dramatically and asks about the news from the Hero Association. The communicator attributes their inability to increase pay due to conditions in the UK. He mentions the association's official statement about the careful selection of heroes. The angry outcry is accompanied by accusations against the association. The question about the date of departure gets an answer. The flight is in 3 days. Kana has a joint operation planned with the Japanese heroes. The guy plans to meet Takeshi in Japan. He notes the lack of known weaknesses in the new monster Makashin. Kang laughs, realizing that discovering the monster's weakness will raise his status. Suddenly the scene changes, and we see a lot of lightning. They hit buildings and the action shifts to Cambridge, UK. We see a lot of people running down the street, from a giant mantis monster that eats people at an incredible rate. But suddenly the monster stopped, and abruptly the fog around it appeared. And heroes with swords appeared before him, apparently British troops. They looked at him with clearly unconcealed disgust at the new monster. Suddenly the monster breaks into its vile scream, then swiftly strikes with his huge ugly paw, but the agents are quick to dodge, and the monster falls right between them. After successfully dodging, the two of them activated their powers and swiftly headed towards the monster. They were already on top of the monster and preparing to deliver crushing blows, and someone below was already casting a crazy spell like a sorcerer. And while the heroes above were destroying the praying mantis with their swords, the mages from below launched their projectiles and pierced through the mantis' body. Mantis was already practically broken, and fell on his ugly side, killed at last. The agents stood victoriously side by side and looked at the huge decapitated carcass of the mantis monster. Some fighters were scrubbing themselves of blood and sweat, and the other blonde looked at it all with annoyance and doubt, feeling that the threat hadn't gone away. Suddenly, another huge praying mantis crawled out from behind a tall building. And at that very second, the blonde saw another such creature. He didn't even have time to do anything. The huge paw was already a couple of centimeters away from his head. The end for the hero. The event has once again moved on to the analog of Big Ben in this strange world. British heroes tried desperately to hold back the monster's southward advance. But without data on the enemy, the defenders were helpless against the threat. Cambridge's defense line had recently fallen, exacerbating the crisis situation. The capital city of London was only 60 kilometers away. The monsters were advancing in huge crowds, leaving nothing alive behind them. But there were some glowing things flying near them. Suddenly, the monster's eyes stopped glowing, and in a flash, all the monsters around him started dropping dead. Everything around was finally strewn not with human corpses, but with huge mantis monsters. The last thing those bastards saw was a helicopter above them. The monster attack team led by Hyun had already arrived at the location and was shocked at the size and number of monsters. Hyun Cho-young's method with red ant extract demonstrates effectiveness. The Makashin loses his strength, causing him to admire the woman's skill. Some team members have doubts about the source of her extraordinary knowledge and abilities. But still, a decisive order is given to finish the fight against the weakened monster, and everyone obeys it. The team jumps from the helicopter and bare their swords. Soon there's going to be some real carnage here. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the airport, where a bunch of people and media gather at the entrance. Reporters completely fill the hall, creating an atmosphere of an important event. Journalists unanimously recognize Hyun Cho-young as the protagonist of the British operation. The hero guy explains that she is credited with discovering the weakness of the Makashian monster. She's almost a superhero now. Saving Great Britain earned her a nomination for a knighthood from the royal family. And so the reporters already see her and shout for joy, getting their cameras ready. The first thing we see is her shapely legs and shoes. And then the entire squad, led by Hyun, appears. The flashes immediately blinding everything around them. The reporters immediately ask Hyun about the secret to defeating the monster. She doesn't know what to say. And then suddenly the focus shifts to Kang Yeon-pyo asking for commentary. He is singled out as the record holder for the number of defeated Macassians. The news reports that 200 members of the expedition led by Hyun Cho-young are triumphantly returning home. The contribution of Korean heroes in saving Britain from the threat is emphasized. They figured out how to defeat the monsters with the help of ants. The man who told Hyun about this way of neutralizing the threat is also looking at the same news. He was looking seriously from under his hood at all this bragging on TV, how Khan was praising himself on live TV, and the appearance of that bastard on the screen made the protagonist furious and angry. His eyes flashed with a frightening light again.